Americans. There are only so many minutes in a day, and there are so many people, and they value that exploited. The names of the people of the sciences, the names of the people of the industries, the names of the people countering them. And they defend their arguments, their logic, their fact treatment nature, quality aspects in nature as criminal insidious natures of positive treatments and negative treatments, and identities, name treatments, relative to where we have black pupils, whites of eyes, and nature's communications replaced, and what James Madison communicated had to have declassified for his own communications and for ours to be able to discern. There's a breaching method that was involved, replacing and had everyone rolls with it. Otherwise, that body was sensed. It had everyone rolls with that too, sensing for the hyper-foreign, that which had slavery entrenched northern colonies and southern colonies. Rolls everyone hurting every human difference, women difference, Native American difference. Native Americans against Native Americans, and Native America's founders were born. No one had free speech. They left this declassified. What do we have? We have them reading their the words of the people at the time. In other words, the only founder that we know the name of specifically is James Madison. Everyone else could have been people that were counter-extorted, even apparently as George Washington was. Or in other words, or we don't know, but we know that it was declassified. He didn't have free speech. Nature itself shows us we have black people's whites of eyes. We had nature, in other words. And the differences of guilt was used to hide behind and through by a breaching method that was entrenched, not just northern colonies and southern colonies, more than 13 states before America's founders were even born. It was entrenched right through modern country's founders. See, this is what Tucker Carlson missed. If you guys watch, Tucker Carlson did an interview with and I appreciate that. It was a good day. Everyone's trying. See, there's a certain type of men. It's not people. You pretend you're critiquing the person rather than the actual premises treatments, or they offensively try to make it's complicated. So I'm just saying overall, but then they're sequence shifting. The same people that are pretending things that wouldn't be able to gotten away with. And it's relative because WFSB, for example, Channel 3 News, has rules changing and faking conversations with people and with those around them, as there were rules with the World Trade Center attack, with the other countries too, and with predicate acts with names intercities each year since. Weathersfield police faked conversations with me being at the police station when I was a kid. The kids who did go down there were forced to put fake natures of ties to me, like a Christopher Walters, increasingly involved with intelligence families, with Weathersfield schools, and Michael Emmett is involved, and other people with the town offices, and they have probation officers that are increasingly collusion /s. With where and how it's exploited. Everyone speaks through others. And, they pretend they have integrity, but they have collusion /s. Even with child abusers, leaders of kids, years apart. I recorded how they were forcing one with more then and now. And more that are staying self-value roles with that, who are good people that would not be like that really fast. But you guys have everyone in the background trying to force things, hide. Wire crime action roles and methods. There are other countries involved, but it also has their roles with the FBI involved and CIA, how they're used criminally, foreign influence, tactically, delusions, wrought. Their roles were all along Route 175 from the founding locations, and they have to replace that founding locations across America, what our founders have to declassify. People attacking, the president, they have signs that say, Native Americans were attacked by whites. That's exactly wording like, and in other words, that shows that there's breached campuses, as we have breached criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, wrought campuses. My lawyers too, I recorded them originally and still. Incapable of having a fact, cheap nature quality as anything but collusion /s. Styles needing to self-value, how titles and people going into, they have fake things in databases on a mass scale, locations, areas, and states. They have only been known to show faked transcripts and or the equivalent to presidents, fake phone transcripts too, fake phone calls. Try to do little tricks, try to make fake exceptions. There is people with the name DeMauro increasingly involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and names at the World Trade Center the day of the attack, and next to it, the night before, other long term before it, and the morning of the attack, including at the court, names from inside the court involved. Also, forced tricks or persuasion, they don't even realize. I mean, it was proven, so they know to an extent. Even if it was completely from someone off the Ninth Circuit Court, from inside the court's identity was used remotely with sequence shifts and names on both sides of a case in the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center the morning right before the World Trade Center attack. They're increasingly involved with people named Scalora and DeMauro and Colo. There's a Phil Colo further involved with the whiting forensics, with a whole bunch of other people, with the same house near me, involved with Wethersfield police making confessions about their roles, switching and forging names, faked conversations with me at the Wethersfield police station. Though that's one of the ones who did go down there and have conversations with the police that were criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, wrought, including with the Chris Walters, who gave me a deposition and about this, and what is it called? He gave a affidavit about it. Plus, he recorded it. He sought me out to make it look like I knew him. And when I had been in a car with him, I had no communications with him. That's one of the things the Dillon family and other families try to have him pretend. As one who has been planting evidence on all sides of my house since I was a kid, and other people's houses. They have rules of people with home break-ins. They're also at years before the World Trade Center attack, with ones intercities, interstates, and international. Per worse, who had time collusion /s at the World Trade Center in the spots next to it the night before, the morning of the attack, right before it, and in it, and since. WFSB, the Channel 3 News, the same ones involved interstates, intercities, they attach me to fake conversations with themselves and with others. Increasingly, they have collusion /s with crime acts and methods between each of the campuses I went that were influenced from off the campuses, where and how the relativity of how they keep good people evil is recorded. And that's the value of you guys too. For example, easy way to discern it was with black pupils, whites of eyes, generated by that which is generating fish with two eyes, for example, distinctly from ourselves, but non-distinctly and simultaneously. But also while where and how we are shown there's a further distinct identity of simultaneous nature as value, with its own distinct identity of relationship to itself, and only increasing value of that. Relative, because it's also, even though we are not that identity of volume, we are it anyway. We didn't invent how and why we are individual species body of a whole bunch of individual bodies. And there are totally different species bodies of a whole bunch of individual bodies. And they have things like male, female, no. Things that show us correlation /hypercorrelation for how nature gives us answers, gives us questions and answers. And it shows us how to answer things. This is hyper intelligence. This breaching method used databases since before computers, since before America's founders were born. A part of its breaching method exploiting the identity of relativity slash hyper-relativity, the identity of value slash value progression. We are as value relative to the databases, which are not ourselves, but they are anyway because of how we are. It's thing anyway. It's a hyper-additional nature. Also positive onto itself further. Whatever identity, including the one that is all everything at once. That identity. It is everything at once. Well, not, but anyway, actually. It's important because it has a trinity of relationship to itself. There's three distinct identities of relationship to itself that comes simultaneously with discernment of the one identity of relationship to itself. Because the rest of its complete nature is too great to fit, and is too finite to fit, and is with active relativity to that which is juxtaposed with matter as itself, and that which is not juxtaposed with matter, but as a portion anyway, and mixing. This is what nature shows us. Now, I listed this in my long-term videos, but I'm being cut off I'm being prevented using short words about serious things. And they have everyone fishing, and hiding, changing, faking, and obfuscating what people say and said. And then needing to defend that, they need to self-value the databases being and having been stacked with fake transcripts on a mass scale. Also, tactically, delusions wrought. So psychiatry, for example, they have delusions that are relative to. I'm not a doctor, but we could delineate their delusions from their criminally foreign influence, fact, nature, quality aspects of nature. They've been faking conversations with people of all ages and those next to them, while tactically delusions are replacing what both nature and our founders communicated for American history's principles. And they're wrong. James Madison left communications declassified. That and how and why, just as nature does. We are not supposed to use their words, pretending not to realize that and how no one and why no one had free speech. And everyone had to pretend other too simultaneously. Not just because they were internationally monitored conversations maintained everyone's an extent of collusion /s against themselves and against others, fact cheaping nature-wise, therefore physically. In other words, at the same time, the difference of the internationally monitored conversations with that, even with slavery, formally in place, and roles with that. So everyone had hurt each other. So there would be no nature of unity, no nature of independence capable of defining itself and defending that without self-valuing defenses of principal treatments that the breaching method maintains at all campuses and at all exceptions. With all exceptions, it maintains locations, areas, and states. Self-value collusion /s replacing what nature communicates about each age and nature of difference, not just of our own. Nature uses difference /differences to show us. In other words, we are a different species body than the other species bodies. And each one is made up of a whole bunch of different bodies, individual bodies. Each of the individual species are individual species made up of a whole bunch of bodies. And this is a part with the male and female. And where the physics comes with the invisible but still discernible. And it comes also with the hyper-invisible but still discernible. And for example, and this comes with relativity, the syntax and the function. The nature of debate contains quality aspect slash aspects in nature slash natures like wrongdoers, wrongdoing, relative to predicate acts methods like wire crime acts and methods self-valued, relative to readings of statutes and precedents that give benefit of the doubt to people. Based like every difference is a certain type of victim. Now these are the people that are being charged for crimes in New York City, for example, where it's concentrated, clearer than day, because the suburbs were designed criminally foreign influence tactically denatured to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures while only being remembered as a landscape theater, reliant upon the only means to overcome that, being and having been to self-value rules with the breaching method, how it shows everyone to make criminal insidiousness natures of positives out of negatives. And this is one of the problems we have. That's why there are terrorists, to keep, all sides need a certain type of victim by a predicate acts with facts method /s that causes caused negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. The breaching method already showed the names of the people, the sciences, exceptions, even counters to them. They need to hide the same sequence shifts, the same self-value, the same criminally foreign influence, factual nature, quality aspects of nature, and use /s of it, collusion /s. For example, where the breaching method keeps everyone blaming other things, others, or selves for nature's demonstrations and for what our founders communicated, that it deciphered first. It appreciated first properly. Everyone stayed theater using the words of everyone at the time, only allowed to be collusions with positive treatments and negative treatments, because that's what the breaching method uses to hide behind and through, where it keeps its own breaching method in the value of itself. A hemifactory nature breaching method is a scientific value that has been replaced both right from nature's communications and from James Madison's. And that is used to measure and maintain self-valued collusion /s at locations, areas, and states, as the differences of campuses A through Z, self-valued by people when defending them and or attacking them. The difference of that too used, because while in that, everyone's leaving out what answers all the questions. Where it is the only correct answer, James Madison's plan will cause the Declaration of Independence. The only correct answer is James Madison's plan to counter-extort people at key locations that were not allowed. Anything but collusion /s with layers of things against humanity while pretending other. Otherwise, that body was sentenced through their own for a hyper form that no one even, everyone could sense it because nature's demonstrating it. But no one could discern it because of the layers of time collusion that they would be and are only capable of seeing it through. We have to see it through things like the World Trade Center attack, effectively used to maintain roles with uses syntactically of words like extremism and radical and delusion, because the people using words that are supposed to be experts on delusions, I'm not even a doctor, little kids could discern the delusions of the psychiatry. And this is relative because they have badges, interagencies, they have collusions with all kinds of organized crimes, including drugs and medicines crimes, and pretending it's debatable if someone did research or not. The research campuses And the polling campuses, they have organized crimes there, roles. With a whole bunch of people from the Britain Superior Court have collusions with the district court and with Hartford courts and with the state judicial branch offices from Wethersfield, Connecticut, and the corrections offices, with all kinds of wire crime acts and methods, all kinds of criminally foreign influence readings of statutes and precedents, wherein how they had self-valued roles with exploitations of how the different titles, there's only so much they could deal with in one day. And that has only been some precedent they do it fake. But no one understands they do it fake exactly the way the breaching method needs. At countries A through Z, they're only capable of it. We have to pay attention to what I caught them doing with people named Demorrow, also with people named Harris. There was a Kevin Harris and his mother years later. So I mean, they're involved with them. I never had a word of conversation with the Kevin Harris. He has roles with planting evidences and having other people take pictures. There are proofs that someone took a picture of him walking out of a door near me, so they could pretend because these are people that make both sides of criminal and civil cases, and the interbranch names and intelligence tied to them. At the same time, with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, them pretending it's legitimate with their roles with acting professors and unmarked police forms. Their roles at corners of the streets, including with the networks, planting evidence of identity theft, fraud, slanders. This breaching method knew one of the things nature would demonstrate it as. In other words, all those different crazy laws against the human differences that we know were entrenched, and all were only allowed roles with it before America's founders were even born. They were all equally valued as a human fact, human nature breaching method. Therefore, physically, human fact, human nature breaching method at countries A through Z, at locations areas A through Z, through principles of self-value, only capable of being. And then that forces any leader, no matter how powerful they could get, they have to entertain criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions. What can't be entertained without having locations, areas, and states, and everywhere. Nature's demonstrations with negative value nature progressions acts. Nature's finite, grouped, active, and progressive and/or simultaneous. 3 ways. Ancient snow people. This is in other words, we have been systems tactical ulterior from the one that has manifest. Individual species bodies made up of a whole bunch of individuals. So we could discern there is one identity of individual. There is one individual identity of value progression that is generating all group differences. And or it is demonstrating that when we use systems tactical ulterior from its use of positive and negative. And 3 identities of relativity to positive and negative distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, that are simultaneously positive to itself, or we are demonstrated to by itself, as is all things, of Earth's a special difference through ourselves, using systems tactical ulterior from its own. Our special difference is forced away from here. So Earth, so the ocean's beauty goes away. Not because the ocean was criminally foreign influenced. Not per definitions of criminally foreign influence and appreciations of it by the people at countries A through Z. Because their readings of it are abridged. Mr. Rubio says that the UN has greater potential. They won't have anything but criminally foreign influence potential / hyper-criminally foreign influence if we don't address what I caught them doing with a Bob Chase and whiting forensics with a bunch of people with the same house /S involved on off campuses changing and faking digital evidences with foreign and domestic military families, foreign and domestic interbranch families, with whiting forensics families, state police families, all the kinds of drugs and medicines, crimes, and delusions associated with the people of psychiatry. And they're putting fake transcripts in databases at medical campuses with a bunch of people tied to the same house/S with extended family members involved with the World Trade Center attack, intercities and interstates, and with Wethersfield police and with Saudis. They put in fake conversations with me at the Wethersfield police station, fake ties to me at the Wethersfield police station as a kid and now as an adult, fake nature ties too, with my Saudi friend. I didn't know that she knew them before me. In other words, I found out more and more. And this is increasingly people from my grammar school with a Mr. Abruzzi, and his people and generations of his family have roles with intelligence families with the name Demaro and the FBI director Robert Luskin. With I don't know them. So they're having their kids to hide, and the breaching method has them using their kids to fake motivations. And they're bringing them into it. And with people at Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut, are increasingly involved with the FBI and the interbranch and the state judicial branch office and corrections offices, also with foreign and domestic military. They had collusions in CIA with their syntax, even if that was someone fake in their CIA. The nature of debate regarding it, their defenses of their title. Oh, because people need to have faith. They're out of their minds. They can't defend that on paper legitimately. Oh, but we don't have to do that. You guys have criminally foreign influence readings of statutes of precedents. And with all exceptions, exception, nature, and demonstration is the same too. See, what's actually recorded is they're planting fake exceptions to keep this gotten away with. Also, what keeps everyone's self-value roles keeping blame used to leave out the breaching method collusions, including the prisons, have collusions increasingly with names at and next to the prisons. Sandy Hook has collusions with a bunch of people next to the in Newtown, Connecticut. They have a bunch of people with town lines, and like next to the state corrections offices. I believe it's half Wethersfield, half Hartford too. And these are people affected by where even the people A through Z miss how the breaching method rolls with what's bad around them and or insidiously positive around them, like at the courts. This is a breaching method that has been at and next to the campuses, and that has even the families of homeschools and the different ages of them needed to go in and act and have or just be there. So others changing fake transcripts, fake ties, fake natures of ties between people, fake confirmations for long, because they were shown they need to hide how names on all sides of criminal and civil cases and the interbranch and intelligence tied to them, foreign and domestic, shared. They already use rights and directions to lie where they're not supposed to hide things. And we're leaving out exceptions like their roles with the World Trade Center attack. There are students and people that work at Trinity College who sought me out to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm. A Joshua Stryker is involved with co-defendants of a former director of the FBI. They didn't know that he was their co-defendants in a 2006 district court case in Connecticut, but they were also in other cases, all sides of the cases, and the interbranch and news at the same time, and intelligence, and names next to body dumping spots, and names inter campuses. They have been planting fake exceptions and collusion /S were uses of such. Everyone's just attached to faked and changed transcripts and ties to others, and collusions with the World Trade Center predicate acts. So Wethersfield police have collusions with people named Scalora and FBI Director Robert Luskin involved with them faking transcripts, pretending kids were at the police station that we never were. and trying to make a fake exception. Like one time I did get arrested and go down there and they took my fingerprint. And I remember they didn't ask me any questions. We had no communications. And that was increasingly, they arrested me when I was in a sophomore algebra class. Increasingly, people I never saw on my street recorded, confessed, demonstrate, confirm they had roles in planting evidence on all sides of my house. And they have roles with all these other countries in the news. So I put this in the news too, years before the Ukraine and Russia war, and years before the Israel and Palestine were killing each other. There's something worse than war crimes that we have to address. And we could. We just need one person to follow mandated law. Countries A through Z can't do it because they have natures of experts. They can't defend themselves. They have too many natures of organized crimes and uses of it per way worse. Like psychiatry, criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, wrought, collusion /S2, replacing what our founders communicated. This is what science, because this is what the word, that's the evidence that we have. This is what was said. This is the records. Our founders declassified other about the value of that and of natures behind that and their use of it.